This is the Photo Business Help Podcast, a resource for photographers of all levels, from brand new to burnt out, who want to grow in business. I'm your host, Natalie Jennings. Since starting Jennings Photo in 2010, growing a photo business has brought me so many opportunities. It's changed my life for the better, and I want that for you too. You'll also hear stories from other photographers and industry folks, as well as my favorite ways to be more mindful and happier on this journey. Hey, Natalie here. It is summertime, and the PBH is taking a summer break, meaning you'll be listening to some of our top episodes from the past couple of years the next week or so, but I wanted to jump in here and invite you to join our waitlist because the Photo Business Help Greenhouse is up and running. The doors are closed for now. If you missed the chance to join back in July, you will have another chance to join this fall. What is this all about? You can check it out at photobizhelp.com/waitlist. There you'll find everything you need to know about the greenhouse, the courses, the community, the coaching, the events, everything that we've got going on. I'm really excited that this is finally happening, and I would love to have you join us. If you're still on the fence or you don't know enough, no big thing. Just head over to photobizhelp.com/waitlist, and I will see you there. Now for an uninterrupted episode. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Photo Business Help Podcast. I'm Natalie Jennings. Today, I am chatting with Audrey of Audrey Nicole Photography. She's been on the show before. If you haven't heard that episode, head on back through the archives. I think it's episode number 8, where we talk a lot about self-care. It's a good one. Today, we are going to talk about something that doesn't get covered too often, and I thought would be a really great topic. I saw Audrey mention it in the Facebook group, and I wanted to dig in, which is shooting in Kelvin. I always like when new topics are brought up that I haven't added to my list of stuff to talk about. So I'm excited to talk to Audrey. But first, before we dig into that, I want to congratulate you on quitting your job and doing photo full time. I've known you from the early days of your photo journey, and I am so stoked for you. How's it going?
Super great. Yep, today is my first official day as being 100% self-employed. So,
yay!
Yeah. My daughter woke me up with breakfast in bed, and I did a little photo work on location, and then I was doing stuff at home, and feels pretty good.
That's awesome.
It's a good day.
Congratulations. That's a big deal. And from my own experience, I know how good that feels. So
yeah, it really does.
Anything else you want to say about what led up to that decision or how you're feeling about it now that it's official?
It's probably a decision I could have made earlier, but was afraid to. And then I don't really have like a pivotal thing that happened that made me decide, other than I just crunched some numbers and sat there for a second and I said, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to quit tomorrow. And then I told a few people, so I was like, I had to be held accountable. And then I did it, and it just felt right.
Well, there's been a massive supportive response in the Photo Business Help Facebook group. One of our other members who was recently on the show a couple episodes ago also just quit her job. Same situation, crunching numbers, deciding that it was time to pull the trigger. And super, super excited. So that's great news. I'd love to have you back on in a few months. I told Ashley the same thing, just to sort of check in, see how things are going, see what sort of ups and downs come your way, because I really think that these conversations are incredibly helpful to other people that are undoubtedly in your situation.
Yeah, that would be cool to like check in and then listen back on this moment and compare and just see what's going on.
Cool. Well, today we're going to chat. As everyone knows, these episodes aren't super long, and today we are going to chat a little bit about Kelvin. And as I said, we came around to this because you had posted something in the group, and I thought it was a great topic because it's not talked about very much. But what was I going to say? Before we dig into that, do you want to tell people where they can find you so that if they want to take a look at some recent work that was shot in Kelvin, they know what's going on?
Yeah. I'm Audrey Nicole Photography on pretty much all platforms. And I'm located in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Twin Cities area. So I think there's an Audrey Nicole like down south somewhere too. So if you want to find me, I'm the one in Minnesota.
You're the real Audrey
Yeah,
Nicole.
I'm the real Audrey Nicole photography.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Well, okay. So Kelvin is one of those things, for those of you who are pretty familiar with the manual settings on your camera, when you go into your white balance, which is what makes your photos look really blue or orange, depending on where and everything in between when you're shooting, most of us, including myself, I would say 90% of the time I'm shooting in automatic white balance. But since I started sort of messing around with my new camera a year ago, I've found what everyone else is finding, that it saves you a lot of editing time if you're a bit more intentional with your white balance settings when you're shooting. Your straight out of camera stuff comes out a little bit more authentically. Is that sort of what was your journey to starting to do this, starting to shoot in Kelvin? And then I'll backtrack and do a little backstory on what the Boink Kelvin actually is.
So I was definitely always shooting in auto because I would feel overwhelmed about thinking about what number I had to switch it to and this and that. So I just kept it in auto because I felt like, oh, it saves me time. I don't have to sit there and think about it. But then I had another photographer friend that I was working with that showed me how she was shooting in Kelvin, and she was using flash because we were at a wedding, and the photos just look so much nicer on the back of camera. They were warmer, and it was more, I guess, motivating and pleasing to look at, because when you're looking at the back of the camera, if your images aren't looking the way you want them to, it can be a little discouraging mid-session.
Yeah.
So I started shooting in Kelvin also, and not only was it making it easier when I edited because it's more consistent, but also mid-session when I'm looking at the back of my camera, I'm like, oh, I like what I see. That just helps motivate you during the session.
Totally. I totally understand that. I think most people that have been shooting a little while get that vibe too, where it's like, it is motivating is a good word. It makes you excited about your work when you look at the back of the camera and you're like, oh, this looks cool, So that's a great reason. So I'm going to back up a little bit. I actually pulled up an article. I wanted to get the facts like dead right in terms of giving the backstory to this. So I'm going to read a really quick paragraph about what is Kelvin so that I don't misspeak and so that people know what we're talking about. But Kelvin is the standard international unit of measurement for thermodynamic temperature. It was named after a British engineer, William Thomson, 1st Baron Kelvin, who advocated for the invention of an absolute temperature scale. Kelvins follow the same increments as Celsius degrees, though they are not written as degrees, and there is no negative scale. The Kelvin scale begins at 0K, representing negative 275.150 Celsius, which is absolute zero, or the absence of all heat. So in photography, Kelvin represents the temperature of light, directly correlated with the color of the burning of carbon. During the research process of the temperature scale, Lord Kelvin heated a block of carbon. At the lowest temperature, the block of carbon glowed a dim red. As the heat increased, the burning block changed color from red to yellow to bright blue at its highest temperature. So that gives everyone just a little bit of an idea of like sort of the history behind the word. But when we're talking about Kelvin, we're literally talking about that scale from blues all the way up to warm colors. And so do you want to just say a little bit about how you sort of, like, I'd say Kelvin 101, how you kind of started shooting with it and what you found to be helpful and what you found to be maybe a little challenging?
Yeah, so Kelvin is actually, after listening to that explanation, very scientific. And that can be a little like, whoa, that's a lot of information. So simplifying it, it's basically the color of light. And there's lots of different types of light. There's daylight, there's fluorescent lights, there's what's called tungsten light, which are like a light bulb in your lamp on your nightstand, and they're different colors. So when I'm shooting, I like to keep things a little warmer, but not too warm. And I'm usually around 6,200 degrees on average. I just keep it right there.
And is that the same for flash?
Yes, for flash too. So when I would shoot flash, it would come out really blue when I was in auto. So I started doing Kelvin around 6,200, and it warmed it up a lot. And so it just made my flash images look a lot better and more consistent.
Awesome. That's great. You're shooting outside mostly, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I can even go higher than that too sometimes. But yeah, it's kind of where I start, 6,200.
Sure. And how often during the average photo shoot would you say that you adjust your Kelvin?
Not often.
And I think I asked only because I think that's like one of those things that that's the part where people's brains, when they're just learning to shoot manual, like you and I both said, like it is easier to like set it on automatic. And for those of you that are just getting the hang of shooting manually, like I would put this on your list of to do things to experiment with, but don't show up to your photo shoot trying to do it all, because it might freak you out if you're still thinking really, really hard. And we all know, you know, if you're in that boat, like that you're showing up and you're having to think, because there is a point where you don't think about it anymore. So anything else you want to say about it in terms of what happens afterwards? So you're shooting in Kelvin, you're not really like adjusting too often. You're shooting around 6200, but what does that do for your post-production?
It just, well, one thing for sure I've noticed with wedding photography and having a second shooter is one of the last weddings I did not have my second shooter in Kelvin. They were in auto. And that will be a requirement going forward, because I had to adjust the white balance on almost every other image, which took a lot of time. Because, the color of light can change. You can stand in the same spot and just turn half a circle and everything changes. Editing, it definitely cuts down on having to be all over the place. Because when it's in auto, your camera will change the white balance all the time, like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down after every picture. So when it's in Kelvin, it's the exact same number, exact same color the whole time.
Yeah. And this is something that as I said, I was in auto forever and still.
Just this year is when I really was like, oh, I need to start doing this.
Yeah, the coloring on the 5D Mark IV was noticeably different for me. Just the quality. There's a green tone to stuff in auto, and so I've been playing around with different settings, and so that's why this conversation sort of sparked my interest, because I think it can save a lot of time, and it's just sort of fun to play around with. And I'm gonna. If you're listening to this and you want to check out the show notes, if you go to jennings.photo/podcast and then find this episode number, I'll have, there's a little Kelvin scale chart that I'll post in there that you can take a look at. So it's got all different numbers associated with different qualities of light. So, and then I'll have the link to the article where I was just reading from as well. So if you want to dive into Kelvin and get all geeky scientific, it'll all be there for you on the website. But is there anything else that you want to say about switching over that's top of mind for you?
No, it's just funny to think about how scientific it is. Like, we're scientists, actually. We're not photographers. So, but it definitely is worth playing around with. If you're outside, I'd say start at like 6200. If you're indoors, that's where it might get a little trickier. If you have some different kinds of lights going on, like overhead lights, fluorescent, you're using your flash. But once you kind of see yourself in a few similar situations, you'll kind of remember like, oh yeah, last time I was in this kind of light, I was at this number. Or you can even write it down, put it in a note in your phone so that you can go back.
Totally.
That little extra time getting the temperature right when you're shooting saves you a gazillion minutes down the road of editing.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that you brought that up. And I think 65-ish is a pretty standard good place to start if you're feeling overwhelmed by this. I am glad that you brought up fluorescent light, because although it is a part of the Kelvin metering scale, if you start trying to shoot Kelvin for the first time and you just happen to be in a room with fluorescent light, don't freak out, because I remember when I was first starting out in photography and I was covering a sporting thing and there was a lot of fluorescent lights in the room, and every other shot one was blue, one was yellow, one was green, then one was white, then one was blue. So fluorescent lights, including holiday lights, there's certain lights, probably all lights, but fluorescent in particular, constantly blink and flicker in different color tones that our eyes can't pick up, but the camera can. So if you are shooting in fluorescent light for the very first time and you just happen to have listened to this episode and you start using Kelvin, it's not the Kelvin that's doing it. It's the fact that you're in fluorescent lighting, and it's just going to flicker and you're going to get a different quality of light. Probably if you're, stand in a fluorescent lit room and do a really fast multi-shutter speed thing, and you'll see that every photo is a little bit of a different color. So that's my 2 cents on that. Well, congratulations again on going full time. Audrey is also an associate of mine for Jennings Photos. She does amazing work, and it's been so much fun to see this happen. It's been awesome.
It feels really good and right. And yeah.
I'm glad you said that too. Today's episode number 54, is a short little rambling one that I did on getting aligned and just what feels good versus what we sort of think ourselves into. So if that interests you, if you haven't heard it, head on back and check that one out. Because feeling into what's right is a big deal. So cool. All right. So Shooting in Calvin, give it a try. If you are feeling buried in post-production work, that is one way to speed things up quite rapidly. And it's probably going to be a requirement for my associates going forward, or at least one of them.
I got you.
All right. Thank you so much. If you guys are listening along to some of these interviews and wondering how all of us stay connected, all of us, everyone that's been interviewed on this show so far in the last 50-ish episodes are part of our Facebook group. So you can join. It's Photo Business Help with Natalie Jennings, or you just search Photo Biz Help. Or if you just go to jennings.photo/community, you can join that way. We'd love to have you. Everyone's at different levels. Everyone's just helping each other out, having a conversation about photography. So jennings.photo/community, and we'll see you there. I will be back every Tuesday and Thursday for 10-ish minute episodes. And remember, in all that you want to achieve, consistency is key. Looking for a professional website for your photography business? Then check out Pro Photo. They offer tons of beautiful designs to choose from and a builder that gives you full control to customize however you'd like, so you won't get stuck with a cookie cutter site or have to pay a fortune for a custom one. With top-of-the-line dedicated web hosting and amazing support, let Pro Photo partner with you to make your website a great one. For listeners of the Photo Business Help podcast, Pro Photo is offering a special introductory rate of only $25 per month for the first 18 months when you sign up using the coupon code PHOTOBIZHELP. So that's $25 per month, almost half off, for the first 18 months that you try this out. This is hosting with the beautiful templates. The code is PHOTOBIZHELP, B-I-Z, when you check out. So whether you've never had a website before or you're looking to make a switch, using Pro Photo will give you a site you can be proud of and the support you can trust. And I can speak to this. I use Pro Photo for my theme. I have for about 8 years now. I'm now hosting with them. Their customer support is unparalleled. They're an amazing company to work with. Once again, $25 per month for the first 18 months with a special listener code, PHOTOBIZHELP. I hope you have a beautiful day. Remember, in everything you want to achieve, consistency is key.